was the day American industry was reborn, the day America's destiny was reclaimed, and the day that we began to make America wealthy again.
The president plunges the U.S. into a global trade war. Find out which stocks in your portfolio took the hardest hits following Liberation Day.
And we've got an interview in studio. We're rolling out an AI image generation through ChatGPT. We're bringing in Teaghan John, AP PhD student at Syracuse University, to answer all of your questions about artificial intelligence in the workplace.
And with just one day to sell TikTok, the bidding frenzy begins. You may be surprised to see this famous YouTuber as a buyer. Hold on to your wallets because market share starts right now. As the closing bell rings on this Friday afternoon, we're talking all things tariffs. Welcome into the show. I'm Sean Dempsey.
And I'm Carson Fowler. Let's take a look at how the major indexes are wrapping up the week.
Yeah, not so
great. Not good at all, Sean.
Week so far.
Red, and more red. We'll start with the NASDAQ, who's had a pretty terrible week, down almost 8%.
Yeah, not a great week for the NASDAQ at all, or any of the indexes, mostly because of the tariff, that we'll get into in a little bit. But It's really just uncertainty. That's the word this week when it comes to all of the major markets. They really don't know what's going to happen with all these tariff situations, and especially larger companies like, Apple, who has, the majority of their manufacturing in China, now has to pay a tariff on everything coming into the United States.
Large loss of consumer confidence. The Mag 7 stocks lost $1 trillion in market cap just in the last 24 hours. The 7 stocks together have actually lost 30% since December. NASDAQ obviously took a tumble. Moving on to the S&P 500 and the Dow, the S&P, its worst week since the COVID pandemic in 2020.
Yeah, S&P down 16% from its all-time high. And forgot to mention before, the NASDAQ down about 20% from its all-time high.
Right.
So really not doing well at all. Like I mentioned before, it's kind of just questions, right? Will these tariffs stay in place? Are they really going to, affect companies as much as we think that they are going to? This global trade war is really just affecting the overall markets.
Yeah, I think the word, like you mentioned earlier, is uncertainty, and we're experiencing that right now. The Dow, 6,000 short of where it was a couple months ago, 6% down this week. You can see the massive decline on April 2nd after Trump announces tariffs on Wednesday.
Yeah, Dow down, as you can see, 6.5% about, but it's its worst week in 5 years, basically since COVID.
Yeah, that's not good to hear.
Pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. We'll move on to our movers. We've got Apple, Trump Media, and Nike, but we'll start with Apple, who you can see had a bit of a dip on Wednesday after they announced those tariffs. Obviously, a large part of their manufacturing comes out of Vietnam, that 46% tariff out of that country. But you're missing this last bit. There was actually a rebound on Friday. Trump discussed internally with Vietnam having some new discussions around their tariffs. So Nike actually rebounded about 6% or 10% today, rather. So Nike may be back in the right direction.
Between 90 and 95% of all Apple's products are produced in China. So when we're talking about a whole tariff situation, that's a really, really big deal. I mean, for their manufacturing, tariffs on all goods in China appear to be set at a combined around 50% from the Trump administration. He hasn't given an exact number yet, but I'm sure we'll hear that in a little bit. But Apple also almost gets a quarter of its revenue from services like the App Store and iCloud, and those services may now see higher foreign tax rates as well.
Yeah, Sean, Reuters reported that an iPhone could cost $2,300 in 2026.
$2,300?
$2,300. Well, we'll get to our next mover, which is Trump Media, which took a massive fall since, when do I have this? March 28th, down 72%. You can see the massive decline after April 1st. Internally, Trump has said that he's allowed insiders and investors to sell off their stock, which is why it's down so much from where it was
Trump Media slid on Wednesday after the company disclosed in a securities filing the possibility of stock sales, right? And of course, when an executive of a company or a media company like DJT announces that they're going to sell stock, it's not going to bode well for the stock price at all.
He's jumping ship. The captain just started.
Yeah, exactly. Let's move to our last mover, though, Nike, which had also a not so great week. You mentioned the bounce back though before, Carson.
Yeah, that's right. Nike, sorry, we mentioned Apple earlier. Nike had the week where it was earlier, but then has rebounded since. I know we were talking about Apple earlier. God, I can't believe I mixed those two up, but here we are. Nike, like I mentioned, had the new discussion. Trump meeting with Vietnam to rediscuss their tariff, which was 46%. So obviously they're in the right direction, but down 10% on Wednesday.
Yeah, Vietnam, very central to many companies' production plans like China. Nike is down 22% since the beginning of the year and at a current share price of about $58 per share. It's trading about 40% below its all-time high. So you could, make the argument that's a good buying opportunity, right? But if you're going to have tariffs on their manufacturing, it might not be a great investment. Shoes are going to be getting more expensive. Let's just say that.
Yeah, and retailers are the ones that are going to get hit pretty hard. We're going to talk about Target later, who is hit very hard by these tariffs because so much of retail and clothing stores have their manufacturing in some of these Asian and nations on that side. So, yeah. But we'll get to our tariff discussion now. The White House calculated its Liberation Day tariffs by taking the trade deficit, dividing it by the imports, then cutting that number in half. New U.S. discounted reciprocal tariffs hit 50 countries, excluding Mexico and Canada.
The reciprocal rates become effective on April 9th, in addition to a baseline 10% tariff, which goes into effect on April 5th. Asian countries are getting the worst of it, with Cambodia facing a rate of 49% and Vietnam at 46%. The total tariff rate for China adds up to a whopping 60%, Carson.
Yeah, the European Union, Canada, and China all say they plan to retaliate with their own tariffs on U.S. products. China has already announced a 34% tariff on all U.S. imports it announced this morning.
Now let's take a look at the market response. Amazon, who relies on 25% Chinese imports, could be set back millions. The stock is down 10% since Wednesday.
And we mentioned some of those Mag 7 stocks. Another Mag 7 stock down big this week is Tesla, down more than 15%. Company somewhat immune to the tariffs because it is an EV provider, because a lot of its domestic production is also in the United States. All Teslas sold in the U.S. are made at factories in either California or Texas.
That's a good thing for them. Ford Motors stayed steady this week, announcing multiple discounts across different models starting Thursday. The car manufacturer is leaning on their healthy inventory to offer customers thousands of dollars off as competitors hike prices to absorb the effects of Trump's auto tariffs.
And like we mentioned, retail giant Target down almost 7 points on the week. In its latest earnings report, it announced net sales increased by only 1% year to date. This follows the boycott controversy in 2023 and some market uncertainty surrounding Trump's most recent announcement of these tariffs.
And finally, Glaxo, a British pharmaceutical giant and biotech company, dropped almost 4% since Monday. The change marks a larger trend for big pharma with vaccine skepticism and increased research and development costs. Trump hinted of future pharma industry tariffs, a new hit to the sector that had been previously exempt from trade war fallout, Carson.
Yeah. And next up on market shares, we've got an exclusive interview with Jay and Yun, how artificial intelligence will affect your job prospects. Stay with us.
Welcome back to this week's episode of the Sideline Squeeze. I'm Victoria Daly.
And I'm Lindsay Ahrens.
Jumping right into Thursday night football, the Commanders took on the Eagles last night. 3-0 the last 3 games. Virginia Tech is coming to the Dome tomorrow.
Fran Brown has just totally changed the culture of Syracuse football for the better.
September 14th at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, we have a big fight card. Mikey, it's Canelo Alvarez versus Edgar Berlanga.
The Eagles completely clicked on all cylinders in this second half.
Let's go to the finals predictions. What are you thinking?
I'm going Liberty and Sun, and I'm going Liberty taking it home this year.
On Bones Jones really kept his heavyweight here. I mean, a pure dominant TKO.
With November comes playoff time for women's soccer. That means the ACC tournament is in full swing, and the NWSL playoffs are not too far behind.
She's dominant in the paint. She scores in the paint. We know that she's aggressive. She littles everybody. But what does the perimeter look like?
It was a solid season for the Orange. I mean, like you said, 13-7 on the season, 4-4 in conference play.
You got Cameron Breen, you got Rakia Jackson. You just need somebody at that guard spot that a little thin in that area. That could be a dangerous trio in the WNBA.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Well, this week, ChatGPT rolled out its image generation tool to all free users. By 2030, artificial intelligence will boost the world's economy by 15%, adding almost $16 trillion to global GDP.
Today, we bring in Teaghan Jun, a PhD candidate here at Syracuse University whose research primarily focuses on digital marketing in the AI space. And Jen, we're glad to have you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me here. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, so we'll kick things off. So obviously there's some notable names in the AI space, Gemini, ChatGPT, but what are some other platforms that maybe people aren't aware of that they should be?
So actually there are many different kind of tools nowadays. So I can think Canva, which is image generation tools that can be utilized for social media contents. And also I can think of BrandWatch that utilizes AI for social listening, which is tracking the brand mentions in social media and analyzing the sentiment from the consumers in real time.
Super interesting. When it comes to AI and digital marketing, what's like the next big question that people really need to start focusing on with all of this?
So I personally believe that the next big question is about how AI affects consumer trust, especially when people can tell whether the content is created by humans or machines. So it's not just about what AI can do, but rather it's about how consumers feel about it.
So you mentioned that consumer trust. So then how do companies sort of balance the having AI be some of this automated content versus having more personalized content in their marketing?
I think the smartest way of companies utilizing AI is for the repetitive task, while the humans can more focus on the creativity and empathy.
Sure.
So the best companies are using the AI to scale, but they still are relying on people when delivering personal human touch.
When it comes to open AI and image generation, for example, like we mentioned before, how is it going to affect digital marketing over the next year or even maybe the next 5 years?
So I think the efficiency of digital marketing, especially in advertising, will increase a lot. But most importantly, I think another important thing is that the human's judgments should be involved.
Interesting. Jen, if you could give a percentage of where you think we are in terms of AI and its capabilities and its potential, what do you think that number would be and why?
So that's difficult to say, but I think it's around 20%.
Really?
So we've come far in things like language or image generation, but the true integration to the society, strategy, and ethical framework has a long way to go.
And what is that? What is that timeline? You said we're at 20%. So do you think that's over the next 50 years, or over the next 20 years? How far away from some of these capabilities you've referenced?
I mean, honestly, it's really difficult to calculate because the development of AI is super fast. So maybe, I don't know, in a couple of years, we'll see a totally different world.
Are there certain companies right now that you think are using AI the best when it comes to marketing, or just in general when it comes to elevation?
So many companies are actually utilizing AI, and I think Sephora, a beauty product company, can be a good example.
Interesting.
So they use AI for virtual try-ons or running chatbots for delivering personalized product recommendations or beauty advice. So that will be the combination of AI tools with customer experience.
So in utilizing some of these things into the customer experience, how essential is it to use AI into your business plan? Is it one of those things where it's like if you're not using it, you're just going to get left behind, or is it not nearly as essential as people think?
So that is also difficult to answer, but one fact is that it dramatically increases the efficiency of the workforce. So I think utilizing AI is crucial, but like I said before, involving human judgment is critical.
Last question here for you, Teaghan. What's the biggest takeaway from your research so far when it comes to AI, when it comes to digital marketing?
So overall, I think AI is a game changer. So the company is being more smarter than ever. So it's like streamlining operations and enabling customization for the customer experience. But it's not a magic fix. So the companies should know that utilizing AI should accompany the human touch and judgment and creativity as well.
Perfect. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Good stuff, as always. Coming up on Market Shares, will TikTok go dark again? A new ban is set to take effect tomorrow. Stay with us.
Let's go see your room. What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner. Go.
Excellent. Soccer is fun. Yeah, I saw you guys out there.
Welcome back to Market Shares. Although almost 30% of college students use e-cigarettes, also known as vapes, flavored vapes may be a thing of the past. The Supreme Court overruled a claim that the FDA improperly is banning the product. E-liquid fruit flavors marketed by Teaghan and Vapetasia will be restricted due to their attractiveness to young people. How about those names? An addictive nature. However, New York State legal loopholes will likely allow sales to continue.
If you're booking flights home for summer break, United is now providing free in-flight Wi-Fi. The airline announced Monday that all free Mileage Plus members will enjoy the perk. The company is rolling out 40 installations a month. CEO Scott Kirby says everything you can do on the ground, you'll soon be able to do on board a United plane at 35,000 feet, just about anywhere in the world.
How about that? The end of one of your favorite social media apps, again, is delayed for just a little while longer. Our Riley Underwood is telling us that you may want to save your videos now. Riley.
Yeah, Carson, I know. We've said it time and time again, but this time TikTok's time seems to be running out. But as of a few hours ago, it has at least 75 more days. In January, President Trump gave an extension for ByteDance to sell to a U.S. company. And like that 10-page paper that was assigned at the beginning of the semester that you forgot about, well, there's a time when it's actually due. And that time was tomorrow, but the president gave another last-minute extension. However, when he was asked about it earlier this week on Air Force One, Donald Trump seems pretty optimistic that a deal will get done.
Buyers, there's tremendous interest in TikTok. The decision's going to be my decision, as you know, through Congress. They've given me the power to make the decision. TikTok is it's very interesting. A lot of people want to buy it.
If no deal, will you extend the deadline?
Well, there'll be a deal with TikTok.
Well, this all started last year when Joe Biden passed a law that required ByteDance to sell the app's U.S. operations or face a ban. Lawmakers are concerned that the app poses a national security risk because the app could be forced to hand over U.S. user data and information if the Chinese government ever wants it. And as of now, there have been a few groups and individuals that have expressed public interest in purchasing the app. Amazon made a late push to acquire the app last night. Project Liberty, an organization led by former LA Dodgers owner Frank McCourt, he formed a group with Shark Tank investor Kevin O'Leary and Reddit co-founder Alexis Ohanian. Employer.com founder and CEO Jesse Tinsley, he submitted a bid earlier this year, and YouTube star Mr. Beast is in his camp. Perplexity AI, an artificial intelligence company, is trying to negotiate a merger between the two. and everything else is just rumors for now. This also relates to the major topic in international relations, tariffs. Here's what Trump said about the connection.
Maybe I'll give them a little reduction in tariffs or something to get it done, because every point in tariff is worth more money than TikTok.
So if China sells TikTok, it could potentially reduce its tariffs. The U.S. has long used tariffs to pressure China, taxing imports to level the economic playing field. Now the push to force TikTok's sale is another form of economic leverage. Just like tariffs restrict Chinese trade, a forced sale limits China's grip on major tech platforms. The goal? Protect U.S. interests and curb Beijing's influence. But China knows that the U.S. wants to keep TikTok. ByteDance now has until mid-June to make a deal.
Thanks so much, Riley. Los Angeles has a $1 billion budget deficit. Our reporter Teaghan Brostrom has more on how this is affecting future LA employees and future LA events. Teaghan?
Thank you. Yeah, LA is staring down a staggering $1 billion budget deficit for their 2025-2026 fiscal year. This shortfall is driven by weakening tax revenues, federal policies, and the recent wildfires. It's leaving city officials with no choice but to make cost-cutting decisions.
The majority of the revenue decline, paired with rising costs, has created a budget gap that makes layoffs nearly inevitable. We are not looking at dozens or even hundreds of layoffs, but thousands.
Regardless of the projected layoffs, LA officials are expecting a $250 million pay hike for city workers, especially firefighters and police officers, with inflation and the increased prices. The Trump administration's policies are also likely to make the economic situation in LA even worse. In February, LA had a $140 million reduction in revenue from the city's business, sales, and hotel tax. SASBO adds Trump's federal trade policy is only likely to increase inflation and slow international travel, which will affect LA's hotel tax negatively. The last time LA was in this situation was during the 2009-2010 fiscal year, right after the Great Recession. At that time, the city had a $500 million deficit on a $5 million budget. And this time, it's $1 billion deficit on an $8 billion budget. So it's way more severe. And guys, I have to say, my home state of California is not doing too great right now.
Are you from LA?
I'm from Sacramento, so a little bit up north.
Okay.
But still get the effects of LA.
Yeah, sure.
Well, thanks so much for joining us at the desk, Teaghan. The LA fires destroyed so much of Los Angeles and California. How does the rebuilding, play into, the budget deficit?
Well, the fires are a huge part of the budget deficit, and the estimates have placed the city's costs from the wildfires at more than $282 million, and that's just for expenses for firefighter and police overtime. And those unexpected bills are going to pop up in terms of rebuilding city buildings and homes and different things like that. But to make things worse, LA has only issued 4 home permits to rebuild for the 7,000 houses that had burned down. So there's a lot of work that still has to happen and a lot of progress that needs to be made in terms of rebuilding.
Yeah, and Teaghan, you mentioned, the infrastructure, all the damage has happened, and it doesn't seem like a lot of progress is happening. And LA is hosting the Olympics in 2028. Is that a cause for concern in the near future?
It is, and that's just 3 years away. So that's a great question, and everything is really up in the air. It seems as of right now, LA is doing everything they can to move things out of LA. Canoe and kayak and softball events were just moved to Oklahoma City. Basketball was moved to Inglewood, just a little ways away. Equestrian events have also been moved to Riverside County. So everything is being moved outside of LA into the residing areas. Because if the LA Olympics don't go well, the city could lose $270 million. Which
that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money, and they're already $1 billion short. So yeah. LA has a lot of work to do.
Yeah, they definitely do.
Yeah, you're right.
And Teaghan, we appreciate you joining us. Okay. We're coming up on market shares. Chipotle has spent 7 years looking for avocados outside of Mexico. We'll tell you where they found them when we come back.
welcome to Live from Studio B.
Welcome to another episode of Culturally and Technically Legal.
Previously on Survivor.
Welcome back to the Esports Juice Box, where we break down this week's esports news into digestible sizes for easy consumption.
Did you hear about the pony with a sore throat? He was a little horse. Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding. Why couldn't the Wait, why was the basketball court all wet? Why? Because the players kept dribbling all over it. Where the cats go on vacation? New York.
Welcome back into Market Shares. If you've been kicked off your friend's Netflix, it may be time to head to the theaters. Amazon is planning to release at least 14 movies a year in theaters around the country, rivaling major studios. The e-commerce giant will push out content through MGM, which it bought for almost $9 billion in 2022. You'll have 45 days to see the movies in theaters before they hit pay-per-view and eventually land on Prime.
And while food prices continue to rise at the JMA Dome, game day over at Coastal Carolina University just got a whole lot less expensive. Football fans will enjoy free concessions for the 2025 season. Participants will have to download the Coastal Carolina Athletics app to unlock this deal, which covers unlimited hot dogs, nachos, soft drinks, even popcorn. Time will tell if other schools will hop on the trend to enhance their own fan experiences.
For the first time in a while, SU students like myself may find a fully stocked Marshall Street Chipotle bowl. Chipotle's 7-year hunt for avocados produced outside of Mexico has finally come to an end. Last year, Chipotle accounted for over $3 billion in avocado imports. With uncertainty surrounding U.S.-Mexican trade, Chipotle has turned to Colombia, Peru, the Dominican Republic, and Brazil for their 130 million pounds of yearly avocados. Now, Carson, let me ask you here. What's your Chipotle order?
Okay, so I mean, I should have written it out, but I do chicken, white rice, corn, lettuce, the green salsa, and the red pico de gallo, not the red salsa.
So
that stuff's too hot.
Do you go with a bowl or a burrito?
Every time bowl.
Really? Why is that?
I don't need the extra 400 calories.
Okay, all right. Well,
but like also, I respect them getting their roll on, but it never stays together. And I feel like when I'm eating it, it just like falls out of my hands. Is that not?
Do you pay extra for guac?
No.
What? You definitely do.
I just almost cursed, actually.
you definitely do.
Oh, no,
well,
no.
I go with a burrito.
You're like a double chicken guac
No. I get chicken. I get some of the mild salsa. No queso. I can't afford queso anymore. I can't afford guac either with all these tariffs going on.
All these tariffs going on.
But I like lettuce, though.
You know, the tariffs were excluded outside of Mexico. So the other places.
I know, but like.
Oh, and as our producer told us, it's National Burrito Day, or it was yesterday.
So maybe I'll get a discount when I go to Chipotle later. Maybe
do you have like a Chipotle the like membership?
No, and a lot of people say I'm dumb because I would get like a free bowl or burrito.
Yeah, you get like 1,300 points.
But I'm just giving Chipotle money at this point. I don't.
Are you going later?
I am going to go later. Do you want to go with me? Maybe.
No.
Oh, okay. even though it's National Burrito Day?
I think that was yesterday. So I would have gone with you. Actually, I did get Chipotle yesterday.
Oh.
Wait, is there like
you don't need Chipotle 2 days in a row?
Yeah, 2 days a week.
You don't need Chipotle 2 days.
All right. Well, I think that's all the time we have for you on this episode of Market Shares. Be sure to follow all of our socials: Twitter, Instagram @CitrusTV News, and like us on Facebook. I'm Carson Fowler.
And that's enough Chipotle for today. I'm Sean Dempsey. Have a great night, Syracuse.